Right, this is chapter 14 of The Art of Public Speaking. This is the chapter on visual aids. Most books call this presentational aids now because of the fact, most books call it presentational aids because of the fact there are so many different kinds of things you can do other than just visual. Different kinds of visual aids that there are though, objects and models. You can't bring the actual item in, sometimes a model of it's brought in. There are photographs and drawings that you can use. Be careful, the photograph should not be offensive in some way. Don't use offensive photograph just to get someone's attention as humor. You can use a graph. There are different kinds of graphs that you might use: a pie chart, a line chart, a bar chart. Line charts are very effective for showing changes over time. And of course, pie charts are very effective for showing parts of the whole. You can use video. Most classrooms have video, so if you also have this on your phone, you can use that type of thing online. It's a little more difficult to do when you're doing it in an online conference, although certainly you can share your screen with other people and show a video. The speaker themselves can be, he or she can be a visual aid based on what they're wearing. Various presentation technology that you might be able to use. There are some pluses and minuses. There are problems that people might have with how they use presentation technology. Sometimes we get wrapped up or captured by the technology, and the technology becomes the speech versus us being the speaker. And you don't want to let the technology become more of the show or more of the speech than you are. So you want to plan ahead at time in terms of using presentation technology. Make sure that presentation technology that you're going to use is working. Very, very important. Prepare ahead of time, practice ahead of time. Some various guidelines for preparing visual aids. Prepare visual aids well in advance. Don't do them at the last minute. I've seen many, many last minute visual aids in public speaking class. Keep your visual aid very simple. Make sure the visual aid is large enough though that everybody can see it without having to pass it around. There should be a limited amount of text on a visual aid. That's an important thing. It talks about using fonts. You want to use fonts that are very clear and easy to read, and that's an important consideration. You want to use color effectively, typically 2 or 3 colors. If you have just all kinds of colors, the colors themselves can be distracting from the speech. So 2 or 3 colors at the most would be best. Use images strategically in a visual aid. Again, the images should not be offensive or in some way gross to the audience. And so I've had far too many speeches that had photos that were maybe graphic or gruesome or something to that effect, trying to make a point, and that's really not appropriate in a classroom setting, or really most places. Some guidelines for presenting visual aids: display the visual aids where all of the listeners can see them. Very important. If it's angled to one side and the other side can't see the visual aid, that's not really a good thing for the whole class. Never pass things around. I mean, occasionally that does happen, but try to avoid passing visual aids around. What you do is when you pass visual aids around, you distract the audience, one person at a time. It's best to display them only while discussing them. However, that's not always possible. It's a guideline. You want to explain your visual aids clearly and concisely. You also want to talk to your audience and not to the visual aid. If you're constantly looking at the visual aid, pretty soon that's what your audience is looking at. Then they're not looking at you. It's very, very important to practice with the visual aid before you give the speech. The visual aid will actually change how long or short the speech may be. That's an important thing. Also, it may affect your flow. So make sure you practice with the visual aid. And the final point on visual aids and presentational aids is check the room and equipment ahead of time to make sure it has what it is you're planning to use for a visual aid.